The peaceful silence of the outer space sector was shattered without warning. It had been a quiet week, with no signs of any major threats. The alien fleet commanders were relaxed. They thought they were safe in this part of the galaxy, far from any human conflict. That was, until the warning systems went off. A strange signal appeared on their radar. The flashing red lights on the consoles sent a cold shiver down every alien officer's spine. A warship was approaching. Not just any ship, but a human warship. And it wasn't just any human ship. It was bigger than anything they had ever seen. The crew on the flagship of the alien fleet went silent as the commander stared at the data. "Impossible," muttered Commander Vorn, a large alien with scales like dark, polished stone. He quickly tapped a few keys, bringing up more information. One ship. Why would humans send just one ship into our territory? Are they mad? Around him, the officers shuffled nervously. The human race was known for its unpredictability, its aggressive nature, but no one had ever seen them send just one vessel into such a heavily guarded space. The alien ships, massive and imposing, filled the sector. They were built for war, swift, strong, and heavily armed. For centuries, they had dominated the galaxy. But this was different. This was something they didn't understand. The warship's shape was unusual. Unlike the alien ships, which were built with sharp, angular designs, the human ship had smooth curves and a dark metallic finish. It seemed to hum with energy, as though it was alive. "How long until it reaches the sector's border?" Commander Vorn asked, his voice strained. "About 10 minutes, Commander," replied an officer. The atmosphere on the flagship was tense. Alien commanders, who had once looked down upon humans as primitive, now found themselves feeling uneasy. This was the first human ship to enter this far into the sector in years, and no one knew what to expect. In the communications room, officers scrambled to intercept any signals from the approaching ship. As the seconds ticked by, they received a transmission. The alien commanders all gathered around the display screen. A calm human voice came through the speakers. It was clear, firm, and unwavering. "We are the Human Federation. We are approaching your sector. You are trespassing on our territory. Leave now or face the consequences." The aliens stared at each other in shock. No threats, no demands. Just a simple statement of fact. The humans were not asking, not pleading, not even giving a warning. They were telling the aliens what would happen. What are they thinking? Officer Toller, the fleet's second-in-command, hissed. "Do they think we'll just let them walk in?" Commander Vorn didn't respond immediately. He was thinking. Humans weren't known for being stupid, and they certainly weren't known for making mistakes. But this was bold, even for them. Why would they send only one ship to fight a whole fleet? Surely this couldn't be the full force of humanity. Vorn's fingers tightened around the armrest of his chair. He tried to calm his racing thoughts. He was a commander, a leader. He couldn't show weakness now. "We will not back down," he said finally, his voice low but filled with authority. "Prepare to engage. Let's see what these humans are really made of." The orders were given, and alien fleet officers moved quickly to their positions. Every alien ship in the fleet powered up their weapons, their shields flickering to life. The sector, once calm, was now filled with the heavy hum of energy weapons charging. The human warship continued its approach, moving steadily toward the sector's border. It seemed like it didn't even care about the massive alien fleet waiting for it. It didn't slow down. The ship didn't turn away. It just kept coming. "Their ship is tough," muttered Commander Vorn, his eyes narrowing as the human vessel drew closer. No sign of fear, no hesitation. Are they really this confident? As the distance between the fleets shrank, the alien commanders braced themselves for the fight. No one knew exactly how the humans planned to engage. But one thing was clear. They weren't afraid. The alien fleet had been waiting, their weapons charged and their shields up, but nothing could prepare them for what they were about to witness. The human warship continued to approach with steady determination, its shape slowly becoming clearer in the dark emptiness of space. At first, the aliens thought it was just a small scout ship. But as it got closer, they realized it was far more massive than any ship they had seen before. It wasn't just big, it was huge. The size alone was enough to make their stomachs tighten with uncertainty. "Commander Vorn," said Officer Toller, staring at the ship's approaching figure on the screen. "This ship, it's unlike anything we've ever encountered." The human vessel was sleek and smooth, its edges curving in a way that made it seem almost organic. It looked as though it was built for speed and power. Its surface was dark, reflecting the light of distant stars like black glass. There were no sharp angles, no typical warship markings. It was almost too perfect, too precise. To the aliens, it felt alien in a way they couldn't describe. It wasn't just the shape that was unfamiliar. The warship's energy signature was strange too. The ship didn't give off the usual heat or radiation patterns that the aliens expected. Instead, it seemed to be absorbing the energy around it, making it blend into the void of space. "Scanners are picking up something strange," one of the alien officers said, his voice full of confusion. "This ship is blocking our energy readings. It's like it's cloaking itself from our sensors." Commander Vorn narrowed his eyes. The humans had always been unpredictable, but this was something else. A ship that could hide its energy. That was a level of technology that was beyond their expectations. The alien fleet commanders had been expecting a battle, but they hadn't expected this mystery. "The humans are always full of surprises," Vorn muttered, his mind racing. "Prepare to launch the interceptors. We'll see what this ship can really do." As the human warship continued its steady approach, the alien ships moved into formation, their weapon systems ready for combat. The fleet was large, far larger than the human vessel. But there was an unease in the air now, something the aliens had never felt before. They were used to being the biggest, the strongest, the most advanced. This human ship was challenging that idea. The warship was close enough now that they could see more details. There were no obvious weapons, no cannons sticking out of the hull. It looked almost peaceful from a distance, as if it wasn't a warship at all. But the aliens knew better than to judge a ship by its looks. "Hold position," Vorn ordered. "Don't fire until I give the signal." The human ship was getting closer, its hull glinting in the starlight. The alien commanders watched, each one holding their breath. Suddenly, the human vessel made a sharp, unexpected turn. It wasn't moving in a straight line, like the aliens had expected. Instead, it moved like it was dancing, shifting direction with incredible speed and precision. It was as if the ship wasn't just gliding through space, it was in control of the space around it. One of the alien officers gasped. "How is it moving like that? The gravity field should be affecting it." Commander Vorn was too experienced to be surprised for long, but the movement of the ship had him uneasy. He'd seen warships that could fly fast, but nothing that could maneuver like this. This human ship didn't seem like it was just built for combat. It seemed like it was built for perfect control of the battlefield. "There's no telling what kind of weapons it has," Vorn said, his voice colder now. "It's hiding something. Prepare for anything." The ship came closer still. The alien fleet braced for the inevitable attack. And then, with a sudden flash of light, the human warship released a warning shot. The beam of energy shot out from the human ship, fast and precise, hitting one of the smaller alien ships on the outer edge of the fleet. The alien ship exploded into a bright flash, sending debris scattering into space. The aliens were stunned. It wasn't just the power of the attack that shocked them. It was how easily the human ship had taken out one of their own. The energy weapon was unlike anything they had in their arsenal. It didn't just damage the ship. It seemed to disintegrate it in an instant. "That was just a warning shot," Toller whispered, eyes wide. The entire fleet fell into silence, their eyes fixed on the human warship. The message was clear. The humans were not here to negotiate. They were here to show that they could destroy anything in their path, and they were willing to do it. Commander Vorn took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. He could see it now. This human warship wasn't just another weapon in the hands of a primitive species. It was something far more dangerous, something he wasn't sure the alien fleet was ready for. The alien fleet had been silent for several minutes after the warning shot. The debris from the destroyed ship slowly drifted in the cold void of space, a reminder of the humans' power. The alien commanders knew they couldn't ignore it any longer. They had to act. They couldn't afford to look weak in front of their fleets. "Commander Vorn," Officer Toller said, his voice tight with tension. "The human ship is waiting. They haven't moved since the attack." Vorn stood motionless, staring out at the enemy vessel. His mind was racing. He had never faced anything like this before. The human warship was too powerful, too unpredictable. They were prepared for battle. But this was something else. "We need to make contact," Vorn said, his voice low but firm. "Send a message. Let them know we are ready to negotiate." The alien communication officer, a young officer named Zora, quickly began typing commands into the console. The alien fleet was prepared for a fight, but they needed information. They needed to understand what they were up against. The seconds felt like hours. Finally, the message was sent. "We are the Zoraxian fleet." Zora's voice echoed through the command deck. "We are the guardians of this sector. You are trespassing on our territory. Turn back immediately, or face full-scale conflict." The human warship didn't respond right away. There was only silence. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the communication screen flickered. The alien commanders leaned forward. The moment had come. A calm, human voice filled the room. "This is Captain Eric of the Human Federation," the voice said. It was clear and steady, without fear. "We do not seek conflict, but we will protect our space. Turn back now, or we will not hesitate to defend ourselves." There was no threat in the voice, just a cold, unyielding certainty. The message was clear. The humans weren't asking for permission. They weren't begging for peace. They were simply telling the aliens to leave. The alien commanders were stunned. The human captain's words were simple, but they carried a weight the aliens hadn't expected. Commander Vorn's grip tightened on his chair as he listened. There was no fear in the human voice. In fact, it was as if the human captain didn't care if the aliens stayed or left. "Is he serious?" Toller asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Vorn's eyes narrowed. "He's serious. They all are." Commander Vorn knew that if this continued, it would lead to an all-out war. But what struck him was how unbothered the human captain seemed. It wasn't like the typical aggressive species that sent messages filled with rage or threats. No, this was different. This was something new. "We cannot let this continue," Vorn said finally. "Prepare to send a counter-message. We are not backing down." But before he could give the order, something unexpected happened. The human ship, which had been sitting still until now, suddenly moved. It was fast, much faster than any of the alien ships had anticipated. In an instant, it closed the distance between them, getting so close that the alien ships could see the details of its sleek hull. The human vessel fired again, but this time it wasn't a warning shot. The beam shot out like a laser, hitting one of the alien warships directly. It didn't just damage the ship, it disintegrated it, just as the first human shot had done to the other smaller ship. The alien vessel was torn apart, leaving nothing but floating debris behind. The alien commanders gasped in horror. The power of the weapon was beyond anything they had ever seen. They had underestimated the humans. And now it was too late to change course. The human ship came to a stop just in front of the alien fleet. It hovered there, almost casually, like a predator eyeing its prey. The message was loud and clear. "We're in control." "How can they have this much power?" Officer Zora whispered, staring at the wreckage. "We've never seen anything like it." Vorn remained silent, but his mind was spinning. He had seen destruction before. He had led battles, watched entire fleets fall. But this was different. The humans weren't using brute force. They were using precision. Every shot was calculated. Every move was strategic. He turned to his officers. "Prepare the fleet. We will not back down. We will fight." But deep down, Vorn knew that the humans weren't just any enemy. They were something far more dangerous. They had a determination that the aliens hadn't expected. The human ship didn't just want to win. It wanted to send a message. And that message was clear. Humanity would never back down. The human warship remained in position, hovering as if waiting for the next move. It wasn't rushing into battle. It wasn't panicked. It was calm, calculating its next move with cold precision. It was everything the aliens had feared. And then, as if to confirm what the aliens already knew, Captain Eric's voice came through the comms again. "We will not negotiate. Leave now." The cold certainty in those words echoed through the alien fleet. There was no room for misunderstanding. The humans were here, and they would not be intimidated. The cold silence that followed Captain Eric's last message felt heavier than ever. The human warship hovered just beyond the reach of the alien fleet, almost taunting them with its calm, steady presence. It was as though the humans were waiting, daring the aliens to make the first move. Commander Vorn's mind raced. The power of the human ship was clear now. It wasn't just the weapons. It was the strategy. The humans didn't rush into battle. They were calculating, patient, and it unnerved Vorn more than he wanted to admit. "Commander," Officer Toller said, breaking the silence, "we need to act. If we let them move any closer, we'll be too close to retreat. We should strike before they make their next move." Vorn turned toward him, his expression unreadable. He had been a leader for decades, guiding his fleet through countless battles. But this was different. These humans weren't acting like anyone he had fought before. "We won't wait any longer," Vorn said at last. "Prepare the fleet. We'll show them what the Zoraxian fleet can do." He glanced at the human warship, still sitting in place, untouched, almost like it was mocking them. That was enough. If the humans wanted to play this game, Vorn was ready. The alien fleet was strong, and he intended to prove it. With a series of commands, the alien fleet moved into action. The smaller ships darted forward, their engines roaring to life as they launched toward the human vessel. The larger ships followed behind, taking their positions with precision. The whole fleet was a well-organized force, ready to overwhelm their opponent. But the human ship did not move. It didn't flinch. It just sat there, almost as if it was daring the aliens to strike first. "Open fire," Vorn ordered, his voice hard and steady. The first blast from the alien fleet hit the human ship. A massive energy beam shot out from one of the larger alien vessels, lighting up the dark void of space. The aliens waited with bated breath, expecting to see the human ship shudder from the impact. Instead, the beam collided with the ship's shield, and the light from the blast disappeared as if swallowed by the void. The human ship didn't even budge. "Impossible," Officer Zora exclaimed, eyes wide with disbelief. "Their shields are absorbing the blast. The energy didn't even get through." Vorn clenched his fists. "Again, fire everything you have." The fleet unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, aiming every weapon they had at the human ship. The void lit up with blinding flashes as beams from all directions slammed into the human vessel's shield. But once again, the human ship barely reacted. The beams fizzled out as if they had no power at all against the advanced human technology. But then something changed. The human ship moved, swiftly, silently. It wasn't running, though. No, it was simply repositioning. In an instant, the warship was right in the middle of the alien fleet, cutting through their lines like a knife through butter. The aliens were caught off guard. They hadn't expected the human ship to move so quickly. It wasn't just about size or firepower. It was the speed. The humans were faster than anything the alien fleet had faced before. The human warship didn't hesitate. It fired again, but this time it wasn't a single beam. The ship released a devastating pulse of energy, sending a wave of destruction through the heart of the alien fleet. A second later, an entire alien cruiser exploded into pieces, torn apart by the blast. The alien ships around it were rocked by the shockwave, their shields flickering and failing under the intensity. "Status report," Vorn shouted, his voice strained with the rising panic. "Multiple ships damage," an officer shouted back. "The human ship, it's too powerful. Our shields can't hold." The alien fleet had been shattered in an instant. The humans weren't just fighting. They were destroying with precision, targeting weak points and neutralizing everything in their path. The alien ships tried to retaliate, but their weapons were too slow, too weak. It was like trying to fight a storm with a handful of dust. Vorn's heart pounded in his chest. He had expected a long, drawn-out fight, but this was no ordinary battle. The human ship wasn't just surviving. It was systematically tearing apart the alien fleet. "Pull back," Vorn ordered, desperation creeping into his voice. "Reposition the fleet. We need to regroup." But it was too late. The human ship was already on the move again, closing in on another group of alien ships, cutting them off before they could escape. The alien fleet was in full retreat now, but the humans weren't done. The human warship continued its relentless assault, dismantling ships one by one. The Zoraxian fleet had never faced an enemy like this before. Their enemies had always been strong, but never like this. They had underestimated the humans, thinking that one ship would be easy to destroy. Now they knew the truth. The humans were unstoppable. As the alien ships turned and flowed into the darkness, Vorn's mind raced. What had started as a simple skirmish had turned into a full-scale disaster. The humans had shown them the raw power they possessed. There was no denying it now. The human warship wasn't just another opponent. It was the enemy they couldn't defeat. The Zoraxian fleet was in chaos. Ships that had once moved in perfect formation were now scattered across space, retreating in every direction as the human warship continued to chase them down. The alien vessels were faster than anything the humans had encountered before, but it didn't matter. The human warship seemed to move with unmatched agility, cutting through the fleet like a knife through paper. Commander Vorn gripped the armrest of his command chair, his knuckles turning white. His mind was racing, trying to find a way out. The fleet had been embarrassed, humiliated in front of their own soldiers. The humans weren't just winning, they were dominating, and every moment that passed made the situation worse. "Commander," Officer Zora said, her voice trembling, "the human ship is everywhere. It's moving too fast for us to target. Our weapons can't keep up." Vorn turned to face her, his eyes burning with frustration. "I know, but we can't run forever. We need to find a way to stop them. If we don't act now, we'll lose everything." The human ship had proved itself again and again to be a force beyond anything the Zoraxians had faced before. The more the alien fleet tried to defend itself, the more they realized they were completely outmatched. They had technology and power, but the humans had something else, a kind of advantage that couldn't be measured in sheer strength. The human warship didn't rely on brute force or size like the Zoraxian ships did. It didn't need massive weaponry or overwhelming firepower. It relied on something far more dangerous: intelligence. The human ship was tactical, using its speed and precision to outmaneuver the alien fleet. It struck with deadly accuracy, targeting weak spots, disabling weapons, and tearing apart shields with ease. And each time it attacked, it didn't just destroy a ship, it left the Zoraxian commanders with a sense of growing dread, as though they were facing a force that was always one step ahead. "We need to turn the tide," Vorn said, his voice hard. "Prepare the counterstrike. We'll need to outsmart them." But deep down, he knew the truth. The humans had already proven they were smarter. They had been prepared, studying every move the Zoraxian fleet had made, anticipating their actions before they even knew what to do. Far out in space, the human warship continued its assault, its weapons unleashing a final barrage against the last group of alien ships that had attempted to regroup. The human ship wasn't just fighting. It was systematically disabling the entire fleet. It moved like a predator, picking off stragglers, focusing on the weakest points, and isolating the aliens' strongest vessels. On the Zoraxian flagship, the officers watched in stunned silence as their entire fleet seemed to fall apart before their eyes. "Commander, we've lost contact with half of the fleet," one of the officers said. "The humans, they've disabled our communication systems. We can't coordinate our movements." Vorn's jaw clenched. This was what had set the humans apart, their ability to disrupt and control the battlefield. It wasn't just about superior technology or firepower. It was about the human mind, the ability to adapt, to outthink, to improvise in the face of danger. The aliens had been so confident. They had believed that their size and strength alone would win the day. They had underestimated the humans. And now, the humans were showing them what true power looked like. Commander Vorn realized then that the humans weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting for something more. The humans had a will to win that was unbreakable. Every move they made, every decision, was based on the simple truth that they were going to fight until the very end. The Zoraxian fleet was crumbling. Their ships were too slow, their weapons too weak. The human warship didn't need to destroy everything. It just needed to pick them apart, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to fight with. As Vorn watched his fleet fall apart, he made a desperate decision. We need to signal for reinforcements. We can't face them alone. But just as he turned to issue the command, the human warship made its final move. In a swift motion, it darted toward the flagship, getting within range before the Zoraxians could react. It fired one last blast, hitting the flagship's main shield with a force that shook the entire ship. The shield flickered and failed, leaving the flagship vulnerable. The humans weren't done. They didn't give the Zoraxians a chance to recover. Another blast hit the flagship's engines, disabling them completely. The Zoraxian ship began to drift, helpless and powerless, as the human ship circled around it, ready for its final move. Vorn felt a cold chill wash over him. The humans were in complete control. They had taken out their entire fleet without hesitation, without mercy. The alien fleet, once the pride of the Zoraxians, was now shattered. They had nothing left. "Please," Officer Zora whispered, her voice full of fear. "What do we do now?" Vorn's eyes were cold as he looked out at the devastation. He had no answers. The human advantage was undeniable. The humans weren't just fighting. They were winning. The battle had come to an eerie halt. The once powerful Zoraxian fleet, now broken and scattered, drifted helplessly through the cold vastness of space. The human warship, silent and imposing, hovered in the midst of the wreckage, its weapons now powered down, its hull gleaming in the light of distant stars. Inside the command center of the alien flagship, the tension was palpable. The lights flickered dimly, and the quiet hum of the ship's systems barely filled the silence. Commander Vorn stood at the helm, his face drawn and pale. Around him, his officers were stunned, staring at the wreckage of their once mighty fleet. It was impossible to believe that in just hours they had been reduced to this. He had never imagined the humans would be capable of this much destruction. Not in his wildest dreams. The way they had torn through the fleet, striking with precise, calculated strikes. No force had ever hit them like this. No species had ever challenged them in such an organized, relentless manner. "Commander," Officer Toller said quietly, his voice heavy with disbelief. "We've lost everything. The fleet is done. Our communications are down. Our ships are disabled. The humans, they're not just warriors. They are something else." Vorn didn't respond at first. He wasn't sure what to say. The reality of the situation was sinking in like a heavy weight. They were facing something more dangerous than they could comprehend, something beyond their understanding. Then a voice crackled through the comm system, startling everyone in the room. It was clear, calm, and unyielding. The voice of Captain Eric. "We know you're listening, Commander Vorn." Eric's voice echoed through the speakers. "You've lost your fleet, and you've lost your chance to escape. I think it's time you understood the truth." Vorn's heart skipped a beat. He had expected another round of taunts, maybe even a final strike to finish them off. But this was different. The humans were giving him an opportunity. They were offering him something. "What do you mean by the truth?" Vorn asked, his voice cold but curious. There was a pause, and then Captain Eric's voice came through again, almost with a sense of finality. "The truth," Eric said slowly, "is that this isn't just about you or your fleet. This isn't about power or territory. It's about something far bigger than that. This is about survival." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, Vorn's mind went blank. Survival. What was the human captain talking about? "We've been watching your species for years," Eric continued, his voice steady. "We've watched you conquer, destroy, and wipe out countless civilizations. But the truth is, you've never faced a species like us before. Humanity has a single, unbreakable instinct: survival. We fight to live. And we will do whatever it takes to protect our own." Vorn felt a chill creep down his spine. He had heard of humanity's reputation, how they had come from a planet of wars, where different nations fought for dominance. But this was something else entirely. The humans weren't just defending their territory. They weren't just protecting their borders. They were fighting because they had to. They were fighting because their very existence depended on it. "You think you can just wipe us out, like you have with others?" Eric's voice came through once more, a quiet challenge in every word. "You think you can just crush us without consequence? That's not how this works." Vorn couldn't help but feel a cold sense of dread building in him. The humans weren't fighting for glory, power, or conquest. They weren't like the Zoraxians, who sought to control and dominate. The humans had something far more dangerous: a driving need to protect what was theirs, and an unrelenting will to survive. "This is the part where you can choose, Commander," Eric's voice said, softer now. "You can continue fighting and watch your species be destroyed, or you can choose peace. If you leave now, we'll let you go. But this is your last chance." Vorn's mind raced as he considered the options. They were out of time. The Zoraxians had no strength left. Their fleet had been crushed. And the humans weren't just another enemy. They were something else entirely. The truth was clearer than ever. The Zoraxians had underestimated humanity. They had thought they could control the galaxy, that their strength was enough to dominate. But the humans had proven that survival wasn't just about power. It was about determination. It was about pushing forward, even when everything seemed impossible. Vorn's fingers hovered over the controls, and for a moment, he considered the human captain's offer. Leave, retreat, live to fight another day. "Commander," Zora's voice broke through his thoughts. "Do we really have a choice? They've beaten us. We've lost." Vorn looked out at the remnants of the Zoraxian fleet, drifting in the dark void. The choice was clear. They could continue this fight and be wiped out, or they could retreat and try to survive. The Zoraxians had lost the battle, but perhaps there was still hope for survival. Finally, Vorn spoke, his voice low but firm. "We choose peace." The silence in the command center of the Zoraxian flagship was suffocating. Commander Vorn stood alone, staring out at the wreckage of his fleet. The once proud ships of the Zoraxian Empire were now floating in space, broken and defeated. His mind was spinning, torn between the humiliating defeat and the offer the humans had given him. The truth had been laid bare. Humanity was not like any other species the Zoraxians had encountered. They didn't fight for conquest or control. They fought for survival. They fought because they had to, because their very existence depended on it, and that made them a force unlike any other. Vorn knew he had a decision to make. It was a decision that would determine not only the fate of his fleet, but the future of his species. They had been defeated, humiliated. Their power was gone. But the humans had given him a choice: leave, live, and walk away, or continue fighting and face certain destruction. "Commander," Officer Toller's voice broke through his thoughts. "The humans, they've disabled all our weapons. We can't fight back. The fleet is in no condition to keep going. If we don't leave now, we'll be destroyed." Vorn's eyes narrowed. He could hear the desperation in Toller's voice. The Zoraxians had never been in a situation like this. Never had they been so close to complete defeat. And yet, here they were, staring into the abyss of their own annihilation. He turned to face his officers, his mind heavy with the weight of the decision. "We have two choices," Vorn said, his voice calm but firm. "We can continue fighting, risking everything. We can try to regroup and rebuild, but that will only lead to more destruction. Or we can accept the humans' offer. We can retreat, live to fight another day, and rebuild from the ashes." There was a pause, and then Officer Zora spoke, her voice filled with doubt. "But Commander, if we retreat, we will lose everything. Our pride, our honor. We can't just run away from this." Vorn's gaze hardened. He understood Zora's words. The Zoraxians were a proud people, and to retreat now felt like an insult to their legacy. But the reality was clear. They had no choice. They had been outmatched, outclassed. The human warship was a force unlike anything the Zoraxians had ever encountered. "It is not about pride," Vorn said quietly. "It is about survival. We can rebuild our honor in time. But if we continue to fight now, there will be no rebuilding. There will be nothing left." Zora looked away, but she said nothing more. The weight of the decision was on all of them now. "Commander," Officer Toller spoke up again, his voice hesitant but resolute. "I think you're right. We can't fight them anymore. We've lost. The humans are simply too powerful. If we don't take their offer, we'll be wiped out." Vorn took a deep breath. It wasn't easy to admit defeat, especially after so many years of dominance. But deep down, he knew Toller was right. The Zoraxian Empire had been built on strength, but strength alone wasn't enough. The humans had shown them that. He looked out at the vast emptiness of space, his thoughts racing. What would happen if they chose to retreat? What would become of their empire? The Zoraxians were a proud and fierce race, but they had always known that survival was the ultimate goal. To survive, they had to adapt. They had to evolve. The choice wasn't easy, but it was clear. "We will retreat," Vorn said at last, his voice steady. "We will honor the humans' offer and leave, but we will also remember this day. We will remember what they have shown us. And one day, we will rebuild." There was a moment of silence, but then Zora nodded. "We will follow your lead, Commander." Vorn turned back to the comm system. The human ship, still hovering in space, awaited his decision. It was time to end the fighting, to choose survival over destruction. "This is Commander Vorn of the Zoraxian fleet," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "We accept your offer. We will leave, and we will not engage again. Our fleet will retreat." There was a pause before Captain Eric's voice came through, calm as ever. "You've made the right choice, Commander. We will allow your fleet to leave. You are free to go." Vorn felt a small weight lift from his chest. He knew this was the right decision, but it didn't make the defeat any easier. He had chosen survival, not just for himself, but for his people. The Zoraxians would live, and they would rebuild. The human ship moved aside, creating a clear path for the Zoraxian fleet. Slowly, the remaining Zoraxian ships began to move, retreating into the darkness of space. The war was over. The humans had won, but at least the Zoraxians still had their lives. As Vorn watched the retreating fleet, he felt a mixture of emotions: relief, regret, and something else. The humans had shown them that strength alone was not enough. There was something deeper, something that went beyond power. And Vorn knew, in that moment, that the Zoraxians had a lot to learn. It was over, but the truth had been revealed, and Vorn would never forget it. The humans had not only won the battle, they had taught the Zoraxians the most important lesson of all. To survive, you had to be willing to adapt. And that was something no empire, no matter how strong, could ignore.